Welcome to today's webinar, courtesy of the Kentucky Small Business Development Center in Louisville. Discover no-cost, valuable business services to help you thrive, whether starting your entrepreneurial journey or scaling your existing business. We have the resources and expertise to help you succeed. For more information, please visit our website or text 502-977-5800. Thank you for joining us today. Feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions or engage with our speaker. Let's get started.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Toolkit Tuesday. I'm Dave Etkin. I'm the director of the Louisville Small Business Development Center. Thanks for joining me today. Always glad to see people, especially on a cold Tuesday like today. If you wouldn't mind, just to make sure that you can hear and see us, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there should be a little toolbar down there. And if you don't see it, take your cursor and hover over it and it should pop up. But there you'll find the chat feature. If you wouldn't mind just clicking that. And then just telling me your name and where you're joining from and that you can see and hear me okay. So it's always great to hear and see everybody. Just let me know where you're joining from. That's my favorite part, is to see where everybody pops in from. So it's Ken, hey Ken, Mary, Addison County. All right, Sellersburg, here's Janet. Michaela, okay, Michaela. We got Steve. Hey, Steve, we were just visiting you not too long ago. Hi, Lance. Yes, Lexington, Louisville, Lexington. All right. Texas, you win the distance today. There's April from Covington. Hey, April. April's one of our staff. Good to see you, April. Thanks for joining us today. Lexington, Louisville. Gosh, there's a lot of people joining today. So glad to have all you guys. I'm also joined with my good friend and coworker, Janet Flaw. Hey, Janet, how are you today? Janet's going to help us out and drive the ship for us.
Hi, folks.
Yeah. So as we go through things today. If you have any questions or comments for our presenter today, just put them in the chat and we'll get to them. I know I have a lot of questions, so I'm sure you do too. And, we here, especially myself, I mean, I use AI every day and it is becomes such a great tool for me, but I'm always learning, it's always evolving, and there is always something to learn and pick up on. So we thought we'd invite a true expert as opposed to somebody like me that just kind of messes around with stuff. Dr. Bill Brantley, who is the Chief Learning Officer at Brantley Advanced Social Services Company. He holds a ton of, I'm not going to steal your thunder there, Bill. Why don't you pop on here and introduce yourself? But Dr. Bill is just an expert in this field, and we're really looking forward to having him on to really kind of share some insights on how you can use AI to really start to grow or start your business or grow your business and just be a great resource for you as you get started in the world of entrepreneurship. Bill, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So that being said, we have a lot to talk about. So I will get out of the way. And just remember, if you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat and we'll jump in and get those questions answered for you. So this is a great time for you to personally interface with an expert. So take advantage of that.
Great. So I'll go ahead and we'll start to share. And
Yep.
Someone confirm that they can see this?
Looks great, Bill.
Okay, good. And I'm going to move you over here so I can see the whole screen. And of course, during this, I like to make these very interactive. And if you have questions in the chat, of course, you can stop me at some point and say, hey, we had some questions here. Don't want to lose anyone on this. Let me give you just a real quick background. I was born in Louisville, and I had been living in Louisville for a while. Then I came up here in 2008 to DC. Well, I was here before for graduate school, and then I came back in 2008 to work in the federal government. Worked in the federal government for 17 years. Coming back to Louisville, actually, moving at the end of this month. So that's why I have my virtual background on, because I have just boxes and boxes behind me here. Looks like that the end scene of Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I've been involved with AI for a long time, because I was one of these kids. They got a Commodore 64 for their birthday, became kind of a computer geek. And I was playing around with artificial intelligence back when they were called expert systems. So when I worked in the Kentucky Natural Resources Cabinet, I was a paralegal. I was using AI to help me with some legal stuff and help me with drafting documents. And at the time, AI was kind of primitive, okay? So not as robust as it is today, but you could see some good stuff coming out of it. And what I'm talking about today is AI-powered entrepreneurship. So this comes from some talks I give. I'm a certified project management expert. I've been several different project management certifications. And I gave a keynote this year, or last year, at the Project Management Symposium at the University of Maryland, where I also teach. And I teach at the University of Louisville. I've been doing that for almost 25 years. This fall, it'll be 25 years teaching the University of Louisville in the Department of Communication. So really proud of that anniversary. And I was looking at how can we use artificial intelligence for project management, and then I branched out into entrepreneurship. So I'm going to talk about some ideas here and give you some tips. And just please note that artificial intelligence technology changes all the time. So some of the things I'm going to give you, there's going to be new stuff coming out. So I'll give you my email at the end. If you need some further assistance, or need some other advice about artificial intelligence, I'll be glad to give that to you, because I'll probably update this talk in about another 6 months based on what we have coming out. So let's go ahead and get into this. And one of the places I worked at was the Navy Inspector General's office at Department of Defense and Department of Navy. And one of the things I learned, now I'm very civilian. I've had uncles in the Army. I've had, my grandfather was in the Army. I have never been military, but one thing I enjoyed about being there is I liked the way they handled emails, okay? And they had this thing called bottom line up front. So if you're military, or you know someone in the military, you've probably heard this before, the bluff. So this is the bluff for the presentation. We're going to talk about value streams in your businesses, and then how they can quickly become complex and difficult to manage. And we can have AI help us step in to handle the information flows, the coordination, and optimizing the value you get. But I also want to caution you about relying on AI totally to run your business, because you as the business owner, you provide wisdom, you provide a system solution through something that's called mental time travel. Now, mental time travel sounds kind of mystical and all that stuff. It's not really. Think about a typical day. Like after I talk today and I got a few calls to make, I'm going to the grocery store. So I can, in my mind, mentally time travel to where I'm going to the grocery store, going, think about all the aisles I'm going down to and what I'm going to get. And we do this just as a matter of fact as human beings. So as a business owner, think about your business and think about how you use mental time travel to figure out processes and value streams and all these different things in your business, and how you get through the business day. You plan it, you look at the scenarios, and then you kind of work from there. So it's a really great skill. And that's one thing that really differentiates us from artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence doesn't do mental time travel. It doesn't really understand context. It can't look outside a system and look in. It can only work within the system. So you're going to hear me say a couple of times, AI is great for point solutions. People are good for system solutions. All right. So real quick, and I know we've heard about generative AI for a long time. So there's artificial intelligence. It's been around since the 1950s, and it's formed because we had computers sophisticated enough to handle that. And as we went through the years, 60s and 70s, we started learning about machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, and that's how generative AI came about. In the past, AI was great for classifying large amounts of data, but it wasn't creating anything new. It's just telling you what about your data and what you can do with it. Classic example, a lot of medical diagnosis on x-rays. What we would do with an artificial intelligence system, we would show it millions of x-rays and teach it to look for patterns and trends so that the AI could do better diagnosis of an X-ray. It couldn't create the X-ray itself, but it could look at it and say, okay, I can see symbol, indications of a tumor here. I can see indications of some kind of defect, something that we need to look for. So that was what AI was doing. And what was the big leap with generative AI is it then could go and say, well, I've got all these text and I've got all these images. I'm going to create something new from that text and image. I'm going to create something novel. And that's what generative AI is. So, oops, just a second, I jumped ahead here. So I wanted to talk about this, and this is what we talk about, the generative AI. And don't understand why my image is not going away, but behind this, with COVID and the quarantine, I was ordering a lot of food online. And I was using something called Grubhub. And behind me is a picture of a restaurant, and it's all about toast. And I like to use toast when I'm teaching students about, AI at Louisville. I have a class on AI and the future of communication. And I say, when you look at generative AI, it seems like it's really intelligent. It looks like it's actually reading your mind on stuff. But what's going on behind it is that the AI system has these probability tables. So you have all these concepts it's picked up from reading things. I'm really oversimplifying this. So if you're a data scientist, an artificial intelligence expert, I'm oversimplifying this. But think about it this way. With the AI, we can ask it to fill in a blank for us. So let's say I have a sentence. I would like blank on my toast. And then what would you like to have on your toast? Butter, jelly, peanut butter, avocado, roast beef, whatever. And what would happen is that the AI system would look at the concepts and put them in kind of a context, or see which concepts we have and what's the most probable concept that comes after that. And I tell students that's the trick of it. So that's why it seems like it's intelligent, because thanks to the predictability of our language and how we communicate, things fall into different patterns and things make sense because we structured that way in our minds. That's how AI can work with it. So it can extract those patterns and those trends and appear to be intelligent and understand the context it's in, even though it really doesn't. All right. I hope that was clear enough. Okay. And that, you can go into further readings for that. And I can always tell you some more further readings, but that's really the trick here. So again, in 2024, and even before that, as a project manager, I get emails all the time. And as a business owner, I'm pretty sure you get emails all the time telling you about the best AI project tool, the best AI entrepreneurial tool, bookkeeping tool, all these different things. And as I was looking at this, I was trying to think, okay, what is the best use for AI? What is the best way to use artificial intelligence in small business? And this stems from my work with project management. And I went back and I thought about this, and I don't know if anyone's seen this Steve Jobs quote. He used this to really launch Apple because he wanted to make computers, ubiquitous. We wanted to put it in everyone's home, and he wanted to make it simple enough that everyone can use them. And he made this quote, and I forgot exactly where it was, but he made this quote about how computers are like the bicycle for the mind. You get on that computer, you can even go further, and you can extend your reach. So one night I was talking to ChatGPT, and I do that. I talk to ChatGPT. It's kind of fun. Get a cup of coffee, turn on voice mode, and I have it kind of brainstorm with me. So one evening I decided to type this in. Please complete this analogy for me. If computers are like bicycles for the mind, what is AI? And I love this. This was the first thing it came up with, and I love this. AI is an autopilot system for those bicycles, guiding and enhancing the journey of thought and discovery. And that's where I see AI coming in to help us. And I'll talk later on about Centaur teams and how that is like AI can help us create really powerful teams and really power up with the small business owners to help you do much better work in your small business. So I took this apart, this quote, and I thought, okay, in our small businesses, and just think about this for a moment, think about the small business you have, we have value chains. And what is a value chain exactly? Well, I work in training and development. That's what my consultancy is about. And I do online courses and all this training. And I teach at the University of Louisville. I teach at the University of Maryland. And one of the things I do, and you may have a similar concept for your business. So this is kind of the mental model of a training group, a training organization. And you have things like the administrative part, the content delivery technology, portfolio management, instructional design. I often go back to this, we call it the orchestra pit. I got this when I was certified in training management, the orchestra pit here. And I use this when I was building a training department at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, helped restart another one. And I look at the orchestra pit here, and this tells me all the things that I need to have a good functioning training department. So think for a moment about your businesses and think, do you have something like this for your business? So working with a friend of mine, I do a little entrepreneurial coaching, and I was working with a friend of mine. She wants to go into the cookie business, specifically macaroons. She wants to make macaroons. So we actually spent some time sitting down and thinking about her business, because I wanted her to think about all the things you need to have around making cookies. It's not just putting the ingredients together, putting it in the oven and baking it, and then going out and sell. You need to have the financials, the billings. You need to have ways of getting the raw materials in, getting the equipment you need, marketing, all these different things. We all know this as small business owners. So I was helping her try to put together a mental model of this so that we can understand, what is it that your business does? How does it run? What are the major functions? Okay. And from the major functions, we can now build value streams. So just go back real quick. One of the things I do is do course delivery, course curation, course feedback, building it, all this stuff. So my value chain for that looks a little bit like that. Now it's a little more complex than this. This is a kind of simplified version. But my training value stream starts with the customers, the organization leaders, and the employees. And then I go through these processes, identifying business goals, mapping learning needs, developing the training program, implementing it, measure training effectiveness. And again, think about your business and what you do. So another friend of mine that I work with, he does work as a handyman. And one of the things we worked with is helping him understand his value stream for handyman. Okay. So one of the things he likes to do now, he's working on flipping houses. So we started building a value stream for that. And actually, you can have more than one value stream for this piece. So if you were to come to a house, and let's say your value stream is to refurbish the interior, what are the major steps you need? How do they fit in with each other? And what are the data needs, the information needs, the resource needs, all that, and put that in the value stream. Okay. So real quick check. And if you can check the chat for me, is this making sense so far? And if it does, you can give me a reaction too, if you like, a thumbs up or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I learned this a long time ago. I went to Eastern Kentucky University. That was my undergraduate. And I had a great class in entrepreneurship. I was actually trained as a paralegal. And one of the things I was reading an article about was this fellow who helps build these fish ponds. And he worked at a company where they built custom fish ponds. And this fellow took those ideas, turned it into a value stream. At the time, I didn't even know what it was called, like a value stream. But he took a 14-step process, and he can go to any client site and build them a fish stream and, fish pond, and even, customize it for them. But he had that same basis, and he could train other people in it. So if you've ever read the book, The E-Myth, you've probably seen the same concept here. The idea of building a process, building a system. You don't want a business to be your next job. You don't want to build a business to be your job. You want to build a system, like how Ray Kroc used systems to build up McDonald's. So another value chain that I use here is the book to course value chain. So basically I teach people, if you have a book, I'll help you turn it into a course. And this is the parts that I use here, and it can branch out and stuff. Now, the reason I'm showing this to you is that you can see, again, I'm oversimplifying. A lot of times with the value chains, you can get really into the details, and that's where it helps to have AI. Because when you do this on your own, and I've done this on my own before without AI, it can get really detailed, and there can be a lot of choices you have to make, and every choice has a new avenue for you, a new path, and value chains can get really complex real quickly. Okay, so one book I want to recommend to you, and this is really a great book to read, it's called Flow Engineering, and this will help you a lot with your business in a sense here, because it's all about value stream mapping. And the gentleman that wrote this, they're in the IT world, they're in the product management world, and these are different ways of mapping your current business, your process flows, and then thinking about what it's going to look like in the future, what's an ideal state. All to say here is, how do I get from point A to point B? How do I create value? And how do I minimize the waste and create the value? Okay. And if you've heard all this before, I'm pretty sure you have. It's the Toyota production system. I learned about that at Eastern. I remember we watched a documentary on it, and I thought it was the most fascinating thing in the world. Watching the Toyota production system and how it just made sense, how things, flow from another. And give a little bit about my background. I come from a pretty entrepreneurial family. My grandfather, Orville Killen, you can kind of tell by the name, he's Irish. Orville Killen, he lived in West Virginia. He ran a lumber mill. And when I was a young kid, I used to go down there and watch him at the lumber mill and see all the processes to take trees and convert them into lumber. And I just kind of, from an early age, looked at things and how things flow and how do you create value out of it. So when we look at our value streams, even with a small business, even if I'm a solopreneur, I'm just my only employer. I hire contractors, I hire out other folks, I form networks with people, but I'm doing most of the work here. And even myself, as a solopreneur, the value streams can get real complex, real fast. I was talking again about my friend wanting to make the cookies, and we started mapping out value streams. Now, she and her mother are doing the cooking. They're making small batches of cookies. They go sell them at farmers markets. And you thought, oh, this is simple. This is going to be simple. But now it can get a little bit more complex. And if you want to scale up, you're going to be adding more things. So you may have multiple stakeholders. They have diverse requirements, all kinds of different processes and systems, how they integrate with each other. And I can tell you from a long time ago when I was an IT project manager, the integration piece is really a killer sometimes in trying to get things to work together. You have variability in demand and supply. We all have seen that recently. And there's compliance and regulatory requirements. Yeah, we had a great 45-minute conversation the other week talking about just the health regulations for her business. And then if you want to expand out, right now she's doing stuff in a place called Chestertown, Maryland, all these little farmers markets. She wants to go to Delaware because there's more farmer markets there. And then she wants to go down to Virginia. And I said, okay, now you got this globalization. Now you got more complexity here because you got to keep these macaroons, which I'm amazed don't really store too well and kind of are fragile. You got to figure out how to work that out. So it's starting to become kind of complex here. So all that to say, when you think about your business, and you can take a moment and even map it out. And I tell folks, sometimes it's better to take a sketch pad and just kind of map out what your business is like, your value chains, and start examining them. And then the idea of where AI can help us is we can put it into that value chain at certain points. And I'll give you some examples for that. But let me pause real quick and ask if there's any questions in the chat that I can answer right now, and then we can move on.
No questions just yet.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So I think we got, the fundamentals. I think everyone here understands the value chain. They use it in their business. So the cool thing with AI is how can we use it to help us supercharge that value chain? So if you use ChatGPT, I use it on a basis, and I do the $20 thing. You can create your own little GPTs. You can create your own little version of ChatGPT to work with. So one of the things when I started this company, now I started the company in July 1st of 2023. Left the government after 17 years because someone was kind enough to tell me I was a little too young to retire right now, and I'd leave all my benefits on the table. So why don't you jump out for a while, come back in? Okay, makes sense to me, and start running my own consultancy. Plus, I have a lot of friends of mine that do training and development consultancy, and they look like they're having a great time. So I want to have that great time too. Of course, as a small business owner, we all know that we have to market ourselves, and marketing can be kind of confusing. There's all kinds of things you can do, and there's all kinds of advice out there. And I probably read pretty much everything in Amazon on marketing for small businesses. And I wanted to collect all that information and have some help with it. So I created my first GPT called the BASA, and BASA stands for Brantley Advanced Social Sciences Applications. It's kind of a nice play on words there. It sounds like NASA. Yeah, I'm ripping off NASA. But what I'm really doing here is talking about the advanced social sciences applications, which I use in my training. And I wanted to be able to market that effectively. So what I did is I built a bot, and very simple to build a bot for yourself on ChatGPT. You just kind of have an interactive dialogue with it and tell it how I want the right things and what we can do with it. And I gave it a design brief. I don't know if you've ever had anyone that was a branding person with you, would give you a design brief. So I gave it a design brief, what my brand's about, what are my key features. If you've ever done any kind of government contracting, you may know the state, you may know what a capability statement is, but it's basically a one-pager that talks about what your company can do and how they can fulfill, what kind of work they can do and things they can help with. And I put all that in the bot and I said, okay, using that information in your knowledge base, help me write stuff. So my first thing I wanted to write was, okay, I need a press release and I have my new entrepreneurship coaching service and I need help to write a press release. And this is what it came up with for me. So it took it from the information I gave it, my branding statement, some other materials that I had, and it helped put it together for me. Now, one of the things, and I don't want to treat you like my students, but I see this a lot with my students where they kind of do oh, there's the first answer the AI gave to me. I'm going to take it and use it. And I call that ripping and reading. Okay. And that comes from my radio days when we used to rip and read at the radio station. I worked at the WEKU FM in Richmond when I was at college. And one of the things, we had this teletype machine and news would come out and you would rip it out and read it, right? You got to be careful with that. I learned a couple of times because sometimes the teletype machine can get a little confused and you get all kinds of weird little things coming out and you're reading the news and you're not really, you're reading it on the air. You're not looking ahead and all of a sudden you get some kind of weird statement or it leaves out a date or something. So I tell students, do this a couple of times. Don't take just the first answer and think about this as an 80-20 idea. 80% of what you want to do is right there. And then start refining it, start making it your own, start building with it. So that's one of the things I do with the AI. And I tell folks, AI should not be running your business. It should be helping you run your business, but you should be putting your touch in. And also think of it as a very incredibly smart research assistant that has all these facts, but it's only good at giving you suggestions and it only understands what's in its database. Okay, so kind of give that caution to folks. And in a moment, I'll give you my hallucination speech about AI. So that was working really well. Then I needed help with my tasks. So, a project manager, been a certified project manager for years. Even so, I kind of like to offload onto GPT some of these tasks here. And I had this task optimizer. By the way, if you would like a copy of the task optimizer, email me. I'll send you what I call the recipe, and I'll show you the next slide what that looks like. And you can put it in ChatGPT for yourself if you have the paid version. Or you can use it in Bing or not Bing, I'm sorry, Copilot or Claude or whatever, and basically have your own little ChatGPT system to help you. So with the Task Optimizer, I use this a lot of times for project management. And I just say, hey, I'm going to be building a website for a conference, a registration website for a conference. What should I do? What kind of tasks do I need to have in it? And, that's a very broad prompt. And honestly, with prompt engineering, some folks out there, if they're really good with prompt engineering, say, oh, that's too broad. You're absolutely right. I like to do chain prompting. So I'll do a broad prompt and then I'll kind of narrow it down. But I'll do things like, can you provide me with a list of tasks you need to help me run the registration website? And then I'll kind of go in, okay, can you give me more examples on this one? Or can you give me more examples on that? And it does come back and it has this list. And when I teach the project management course, I talk about this in more detail because it's great for project management. And I can have it export things into an Excel spreadsheet for me, give me lists, give me deadlines, all that stuff. Help me if my tasks are off date. Like let's say I miss a few tasks and I need to readjust dates. It can tell me, figure out the rest of my schedule. And this is what the recipe thing looks like. So this is what it looks like behind the scenes in ChatGPT. And I didn't write this myself. ChatGPT wrote this. I just had an interactive dialogue. So name, I said, okay, let's call it that. What it does, the instructions, it actually wrote the instructions for me. I can add more stuff in it and then some conversation starters. And right below this here, it could be a knowledge base. So if you have a preferred project management method, or you have a preferred business method, or some way of doing things, or a style manual, whatever, you can add that to the knowledge base and say, when you write my press releases, make sure they follow this style guide for me. Or when you create tasks for me, make sure that you use different kinds of date units, or make sure you keep the schedule here. We have a schedule of when people have vacations and such. We need to have that in there. All right. So that's really simple uses of ChatGPT. And those are kind of simple AI systems that can help you. And the best way I would say with the Task Optimizer, I don't let it run the project. I give it a detailed idea of what the project's about, and then it can pull tasks in for me. And then I can do a little reality check. Does this task work for me? Or does this task not work for me? And should I add to it? Now, I just recently started playing with this guy. This is called Taskade, and it is like a collection of AI agents. And you can sign up for free with it. You can play with it. There's a free version. And what it does is you have a bunch of little AI agents doing all kinds of different things for you. So you can have some automation built into this. You can have tasks and projects built into this. This is like what I took my chat GPTs and I have an army of them that I can put together into one place. Okay. And there's other tools out there. I'm not just pushing this one because I have any interest in it. I don't. But it's kind of cool to look at seeing what you're doing there. And I would say once you've gotten used to mapping out your value chains, it's always a great idea. Map out your value chains or your value streams first before you put AI into it, so you understand what you're doing. Because I learned a long time ago as an IT project manager, if you take a bad process and you put the bad process into software, all you're going to do is make that bad process fail faster and be more destructive in its failure. Okay, so get your process done right first, and then before you put it into the software. Okay, so this is kind of a cool place, neat little place to play with and kind of visit. Now, other companies do this too. So they don't take and you can do this if you want to. You can take your entire value stream if you want to, if it makes sense, and turn it all into AI solutions. Again, you've designed the value chain, you designed the value stream. But in some cases, like these companies, and this is a great resource to look at. So if you go on Google, I think I have I think I have it. No, that's that source. So if you go on Google and look for how to create business value with AI, it's an IBM publication. And it'll give you great examples here of how companies like KPMG or Navtech or NVIDIA, they all put point solutions into their value streams to help them with their work and their processes. And if you really are fascinated by what they can do, this is a great company, Quintilla. Actually, what I do is I subscribe to their blog. I don't really buy their products because I can't afford their products. And these are real heavy duty value stream tool integration. But what they do is they combine AI with the value streams, and the AI stuff can help you identify new value streams out of ones you have. You can integrate your value streams together. You can do the integration of your tools. I just show this to you as what the future could be. So when your company gets bigger and better and scales up, just realize that you can take those value chains and with AI can really supercharge them. So let's take a quick break. Any questions so far in the chat?
We got
None?
we have a couple of comments here.
Okay.
Sean says, I'm also currently developing an AI assistant as a small business owner. How do I create my own chat GPT chatbot? And is it better to use the GPT modules or make one from scratch? That's a good question.
That's a great question. Yeah, you have choices there. Actually, kind of show my bias here. I like ChatGPT. I use it a lot, but I'm more of a Microsoft fella, and I love the Power Platform. And you can use Copilot, which is an AI system, and you can build similar kind of similar things that I showed you there. ChatGPT is probably the easiest way to get started. And if you've got the $20 a month subscription, you can build as many of those GPTs as you want to and play with them. I'm creating them all the time and just, getting rid of them when I don't need them. And it's just kind of an interactive dialogue. So you basically think in your head, well, what do I need? So recently I had to do some work and with some lawsuits and such. I also train lawyers. And I built a Kentucky court assistant. And my Kentucky court assistant GPT would basically help me draft legal pleadings based on the Kentucky revised statutes and practice manuals and all that stuff, so it would work in the Kentucky jurisdictions. Because a long time ago, I was a paralegal, and I used to do that by hand, and that could take some time to draft what the court wants. GPT does it really quickly for me, and it's just an interactive dialogue. I say, this is what I want to create, or I'll ask you some questions, and then it'll pop it out for you. Now, if you do the Power BI like I do with the Power, the Copilot and such, you may have to do some more mapping of the value stream. And you may have to do some more mapping of what you want to have. So like a lot of what if, or if this happens, then that happens or that happens. But it's very graphical and it can build those apps. If you look at the Power Apps thing, it's a beautiful system. And I can train it to read my email for me and then take out things like file attachments and put them in places, or read my email and tell me which ones are more urgent to work with. So a little bit more programming on that side, but not that much programming. It's more of a low code idea. But yeah, you can do that. You can do it with that. So I would start off with ChatGPT just because it's an easier approach. And then once you get more sophisticated and you need more things to work with each other, because again, I'm a Microsoft person, I use all the whole Microsoft suite. It just seems easier to work that way with it. Okay, and I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, couple quick more. Well, we got a second here. How do you think about confidentiality with your use
yeah.
of AI? That's from
Okay.
Steve. Yeah.
So you're going to get my law firm talk. All right.
Yeah. And then Michelle has one that kind of pops on top of that, but
Yeah.
is this still your intellectual property, even with the use of AI assistance? That's another great one.
That is a great example, and it's still being litigated in the courts. And let's talk about art, right? Okay, so there's the big intellectual property thing. So let's say I go and I write a book using AI, which I've seen folks do that and, write stuff. And I use AI to help me write articles. And, again, there's the 80-20% of the rule. So it depends on how you do it. I look at it this way. If I hire someone, and I've done this before with students, I hire someone as a research assistant, and they bring me research and they bring me notes from it, and then I compile that in the book, I can legitimately claim that's my intellectual property. And there is case law to support that. Now, if you're like some folks, and I've seen this on Facebook, and this is really not a good thing to do. They call it PDF farming. And what they do is folks go out and they use AI to, I would write me a book about, I don't know, write me a recipe book, okay? And AI builds a recipe book for you. The person takes that output, doesn't change anything, and compiles it into a PDF and sells it as their own book. Or they might make some grammatical changes or something like that, just so they can claim they made some changes. So I'm going to see some cases here. I bet you're going to see some cases about the intellectual property piece of that. And, I was at Patent and Trademark Office, which is all about intellectual property. And that's where we had a lot of controversy. If I had used AI to help me create a patent, an invention to be patented, how much of it can I claim, right? So there is some concerns with that. Now, the confidentiality thing that I talked to with attorneys and law firms is realize, and even though AI systems, I'm sorry, I'm a little paranoid. AI systems say they're not going to use what you upload in your prompt to train the data, they still are. And we're still seeing news stories where they basically, ChatGPT did this, where they took some text out of books they were not supposed to and use that to train the data systems, because these AI systems, they need more and more data. In fact, we're running into a data problem when we don't have enough data to train them. So when I talk to attorneys, one of the things I say is, if you're concerned about confidentiality and privacy, don't let your people use these online AI tools. Have an AI system on premise, not connected to the internet, that only works with the files in your office, okay? Because you still have that issue of data leaking. And it can, and stuff can pop out. And in the early days, I mean, it's gotten better, but in the early days, people's social security numbers are popping out into other people's answers, or names are popping out in there. So it's, it's still kind of, you have to be real careful about that, because the AI system, it doesn't know. It has no context. It's just going to use whatever data you give it to train it. And if the programmers that let it, train on the data don't have the sufficient safeguards in place, you're going to be in some problems. Okay, so if you're in doubt, don't use the online ones. Or if you use them, make sure you anonymize the information or make it as generic as you can, so it doesn't, it doesn't point to anyone specifically. Hope that helps. Still some case law being settled on that, okay? And if you're an artist, video and images and all that, you just, you want to look at some of the other things out there. I know there's some systems where you can poison your images, so that if an AI system, let's say it gets a copy of your image, you can put these little things in there that can help poison that image. In other words, the AI system can't really use that image, or it's distorted. Okay. Hope that answered that question. David, did that answer the question?
Yeah. Yes, that did. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about AI point solutions. And again, as a small business owner, you're creating a system. And you're, and you should be creating a system, because again, if the E-Myth, when you talk about that, you don't want to create another job for yourself, because that's just, why don't you just work for someone else and let them handle all the other details? As a small business owner, you want to create a system that you can let it run on its own and you manage, okay? And that's where the creativity part comes in. And this is the thing about AI. It only knows what it's trained on. It only knows what's in its database. It cannot go outside of a system and look at things. Okay, so let's say, you know, with my friend here that likes to flip houses, and we have some AI solutions for him. It doesn't look at the whole house. It doesn't look at the whole housing market. I mean, you could put that data in there. You can have some good guesses, but it can't look outside the system and see things like, does this house have good bones? Or what do I need to do to work with this house? Or is this a good investment? I mean, it can make predictions. It can look at past data and it can give you the point solutions, but really ultimately the decision on how do I make this house flipping system work and what are some innovations I can put into it, okay? So in some cases, it may be a subtle point, but when you look at AI, just realize it doesn't understand context. So when I do my training and development, I have my training, you know, and I showed you my value chain, and this is kind of more of a jump into it. I use AI after I built the system, like the book to course system. I then look at AI and how can I use that to help me with it? So I had this system that I use to build courses at the University of Maryland. And one part of it here is I create class notes from transcripts. So I do the scripting of the class. So I do my own scripting, original scripting. I don't have AI write it, but I have it in there. Then I read and I video the scripts, make videos for, you know, my PowerPoints. And then I create class notes from transcripts. Now, before AI, when I was doing this, it would take me about an hour and a half to 3 hours each video. And I would do 20 to 40 videos. That was 30 to 60 hours. That was almost a week to 2 weeks, okay? A lot of work and, you know, just kind of tedious going through and cleaning up my language and cleaning up the stuff because I would get the raw transcripts from the video and it would just transcribe it for me at verbatim and then I'd have to clean it up. Now with AI, I can give the raw transcript to the AI system. It can clean it up for me. And it takes 10 to 15 minutes for each of the 20 videos. I've cut it down now to, I can create all the transcripts I need for my study notes, my class notes. Instead of taking almost 2 weeks to do it, it takes about half a day. Okay? That's what AI can do for you. Now, AI is not creating anything for me, but it's basically cleaning up stuff for me and reformatting it for me. I did the original creation there. So that was wonderful when I could do that. And then one thing I do is I have AI help me write the questions. And I don't know if anyone here does training and development or teaching. You know, a lot of times creating the questions can take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it can really just bog you down. So before 120 questions for a course, 24 hours, you know, about 3 days worth of work. After AI, into 2 hours. And that's me cleaning up some of the questions there and making them more applicable. So I get about 80% of my solution, and it's 20% of what I add into it. So think about this for a second, and let's see where we are on time. 12:43, good. We'll have enough time for questions. Think about your value chains, and think about where you can insert point solutions using AI. So if you haven't done this, after this, you can, I almost said after this class, after this workshop, you can sit down, map out your value chains and think about where can I optimize? And where can I optimize right now? And then when I've optimized it, where can I use some point solutions using AI to make it even faster and more efficient? So think system solutions, because that is tapping into the powers that we have as small business owners. We're good at forecasting and scenario planning. We learn from our past projects. And one of the things people say, well, don't AI systems learn from past projects? They can learn to look for trends and patterns. And they, of course, use those trends and patterns to project forward. But with us as humans, we can actually envision what we call counterfactuals. So I can look at a past project where it didn't work too well, and I can think, well, what if I changed this? Or what if I had done this? Or what if I had done that? And then I can go forward with that new solution. The AI system cannot use counterfactuals. It cannot understand, you know, well, what changed? Well, that's what it was. That was the past. We can think of alternate past. Also, we have enhanced decision-making because we understand people. Again, you have all the great AI in the world, but we're selling to people and we're selling to their taste. And we know folks are not always rational. They have different tastes. They have reasons why they like things. And, you know, this is something that you really can't capture in a, well, you can capture it through surveys and such, but there's just some reasons why people don't like things, and there's an emotional basis to it. And also with AI, we have optimizing our team dynamics and productivity. We get to know people, we get to know how they like to work, we can work with them on, on how to be more productive. And AI just doesn't have that understanding of human psychology. And AI doesn't really adapt to change as well as people do, because they can't envision a new future. They can envision new futures and work from that. So one thing I hope is that everyone here feels good about themselves as human beings, because you do have an advantage over AI, because you can imagine different futures and alternative futures, and you can even imagine fantastic futures. And that's something AI can never do, or not at this point can't do, okay? So one of the things when I talk to people about AI is think about Centaur teams. This comes about, y'all remember when Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion, went against Deep Blue, and he was beaten by the chess computer. And he got really interested in artificial intelligence, and he ran these tournaments online, and it was human-computer chess tournaments. And what he would do is he'd invite people to come in, and they could be chess computers or they could be people, and compete against each other on chess tournaments. And the teams that were winning, or the team that was winning, was a human-computer hybrid. And you had two chess amateurs, pretty good chess amateurs, not great, but pretty good, pretty high in the rankings. And they had three chess computers. And what they would do is the amateurs would put the chess problem into the computers and look if there was a consensus among the three computers, they might go with that move. If there's two out of the three agreed that that would be a good move, or if you had one that had a different move, or you could even discount what the chess computer came up with. And the idea here was it was a synergy of human and AI strengths. So the chess computers can search millions of chess moves, try to find the best one, the optimal move here. But the humans could put in the creativity, could look forward using that mental time travel, and combine their answers, and come out with superior performance. And these Centaur teams were winning these chess tournaments. When you combine the strengths of both AI and people, that was helping win the tournaments there, because you got innovative approaches from the humans, but superior performance from the AI, and your expertise was shared equally. And also people could interact with the human, with the AI, and maybe pose different questions to it and see if you can get better refined answers. So when I see with small business owners, and I like this quote from a person at the World Economic Forum talking about that, AI is not going to take away people's jobs. People with AI are going to take away people's jobs. So it's, blending those two. And I firmly believe that. So summary, you guys as business owners, you're focusing on enhancing your value stream successes. That's the heart of your business. But value streams can tend towards complexity, challenging your management, challenging how much you can keep in your mind. And AI streamlines value stream navigation by managing data and optimizing value. Okay. So one of the things you need to think about here is that it helps you navigate that value stream. You built it, but it helps you navigate it, and it helps you deal with the data overload. And you can employ your mental time travel as the AI is going through the value stream navigation and helping you become more innovative and helping you deal with those futures that you want to try to come about. And you may want to think about this when you start bringing in employees and such. Think about how you can use AI to augment our natural abilities as humans, and that'll help you with your company, okay? I see folks, I just saw something today about Facebook wanting to use coders. They want to use AI coders. And I want to tell you, as an IT project manager, that's a disaster, because what is going on here, and I just told you the trick, right? It's like the toast example. They're going to use code that other people have created. And what we're finding in the research is that when you have code that AI has assembled from human contributions, and then it goes out into the wild, and then other AI systems picks up those AI coded systems, you're starting to blend towards kind of a blandness. I call it the smoothie effect, okay? You're blending all this stuff together and you're getting a smoothie. And essentially you're losing the creativity and the innovation that people can bring to coding, and you're just going to get whatever piece of code is out there. Give you a personal example, and I got enough time for this. When I was looking at training and development, and I got all these different seminars coming up saying, oh, I can build a leadership development course for you in 5 minutes using AI. And they did. PowerPoint, participant manual, all the great stuff you need for training. But when you got into it, it was the most bland, generic kind of leadership training, and it just didn't have a spark there. It didn't, it just seemed like it was everything you blended together. And I often talk to my students about that, and I have them read their own stuff, and I say, is this really you, or is it just a combination of everything else everyone brought out? Okay. And what's better, your stuff and being original and creative, or just kind of, doing the bland? And if you want the bland, that's fine. But I can see a lot of problems when you turn all the programming over to AI, and it's using programming that AI has created, and you get to the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th generation, you're going to get some real degradation on the programming. All right, open for questions. That is my email. That is my LinkedIn. Please connect with me. That's the company. Really enjoy talking to you folks, and I really hope to see you all in 3 weeks when I'm in Louisville, and I'll tell you some of my favorite haunts. Wick's Pizza, I'll be hanging out there. I miss Wick's Pizza. And honestly, I'll be hanging out at the Waffle Houses because there's no Waffle Houses near me. It's just been a sad thing for 15 years.
Very nice, very nice. But we do have some questions. Michaela has several. How are you, Michaela? I think we'll be talking here pretty soon. She has a question about creative contracts, with chat, and can she legally use those, or should she still consult with an attorney? What do you think about that?
Well, I'm going to tell you, as a former paralegal, I'm pretty naturally cautious. I would really talk to an attorney about it, just a consultation. And again, the cases are not settled, okay? And the courts are kind of mixed in how they're approaching this. And, it's going to have to work with it. And plus, the AI systems are becoming more sophisticated. I mean, I see it with my students. They're okay. I'm going to say this. Some of my students cheat with AI. Okay, sorry to say that, but they do. And detecting the cheating is getting harder and harder. So, that's one thing you have to watch out for. And yeah, you don't want to be caught with, okay, I used AI to build all this stuff. And some folks, can come back and sue you on it. I mean, Hollywood's having an issue with it. And it's kind of funny. It reminds me of a case back when I was at the Patent and Trademark Office, when we were dealing with another intelligence where a monkey picked up a camera and took a photo. And it was a pretty good photo. I don't know if the monkey knew what it was doing, but it took the photo. And there was an actual court case about, does the monkey own the copyright to that photo? And the courts ultimately decided, no, it didn't, because it really didn't, understand. It didn't have the human agency. So if I had to predict, I would say pass it by an attorney, and, because you may run into that human agency question, okay? Not an attorney myself, but I'm just saying that's what I saw with the Patent and Trademark Office.
Right, that's a good one. Michaela also asks, what would be the best AI program for someone who creates products and content to sell?
Products and content to sell. Well, ChatGPT I use that, and I'll tell you my trick here, because I actually learned it from a student. I'll use ChatGPT to write stuff, and then I'll run it through Copilot. I'll put it in a Word document, let Copilot rewrite it for me, because Copilot seems to write in a more succinct way, in a more action-oriented way. But, that's one of those. And another tool that I love is Perplexity, which is a great research tool. And that helps a lot with stuff. But Perplexity's prose is awful. So you may have to run through, you got a choice of AI systems. You can run them in Tangent if you want to. And
I do the same thing, Bill. Yeah, I use Claude, but I don't use a Copilot. But yeah, that would be.
Yeah, Claude is good too. Claude has a good, good way of writing. But it's really you getting in there and also writing, because I mean, I've seen stuff where it's written things for me and it's completely changed the tone of the sentence or the meaning of the sentence. You got to watch for that.
Yeah. Michaela also wants to know that when we were talking a little bit earlier, that she wants clarification whether you were talking about the AI-powered workspace when we were talking, I guess, in the Microsoft.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's Power Platform. And yeah, there's Power Apps and there's Power Pages. And I mean, I keep adding more stuff to it. And I like the Power BI myself because I do a lot of data analysis. Oh, another great AI system I like is called Julius, like JuliusCaesar.ai. And that does great statistical analysis. And why it does such a good job is because it pairs with Python. So I've used that for statistical analysis for me, and I could just upload a data set. It can help, format it for me, do it real quick for me and work with it and give me some good results. Although again, watch it and make sure it does give some reasonable results and make sure the results do track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Bevan just has kind of a comment. He says, Facebook won't be able to blame the AI for their own responsibility and liabilities.
Problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sean says, since the value of AI is now increasing, does this now make effective data collection an edge in any business scalability? Well, that's a great one.
Yeah, that's a great one. I mean, yes. And I like the idea about your data collection because your AI is only as good as the data it collects, and it has to be good quality data. And some of the biggest problems we have with AI systems, I'm seeing some smaller ones, is that the AI has to be, I mean, not the AI, but the data has to be high quality. And you have to be careful that, it's got the information makes sense there. And also, one of the things we talked about this not we, but I talked to another group about this the other day, is the ethical implications. If you have data, and we've seen this before, that has maybe some inherent bias in the data, and I'm looking at a mortgage application, and if it's basically, redlining folks, or it's not pulling in people in certain neighborhoods, that'll be reflecting the data. Because again, the AI is not malicious. It doesn't know what it's doing. It's just going on the past data. And if that's what you did in the past, that's what we're going to do in the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is Julius open source? Is there a free version of that?
Julius, there's like a limited version of it that's kind of free, but yeah, I pay $20 a month. So there's a free version.
Okay, cool. All right. I think that's all the questions we have. Yeah.
And when people ask me about that, this is no joke, when I was an IT project manager, there's two industries that refer to their people as users, computer industry and the narcotics industry. And the first one's free, kid.
That's great.
Yeah. A little mean too, but yeah, I've been on the other side building computer products.
Well, we're right at time here. So, Bill, I want to thank you for coming on. This has been really, really eye-opening, and I got a lot of great tips and stuff here. So I got some stuff I'll be doing later on today. So I appreciate all that.
Great. Yeah. And just feel free to, email me or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Love to talk to you. And like I said, in 6 months, probably everything I told you will probably be changed. Probably
that's
in 3
the sad part. Yeah, that's the sad part about
it. That's okay. It's a growing field.
Yeah. Well, Bill, you're a true treasure, and I appreciate you. And feel free to reach out to Bill. He's a great resource, as is the Small Business Development Center. If you have any needs that we can help with, please reach out to us. And Janet, thanks for driving the ship as always.
Thanks, Dave. Everyone, be sure to stick around and fill out our evaluation, and we'll be sharing this recording with you later as well.
Yep. All right, everyone. Have a great Tuesday. Thanks for joining, and we will see you next week.